Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hi everyone, welcome to another video on the JayBee
Hello.
and Milly channel. We are, as always, joined by Rhianna.
Hello!
So I guess welcome everybody to the first episode of Smash or Pass for this series of Scooby Doo.
Yeah, we got it all together for a brand new show.
Indeed we did, JayBee.
Oh, we should have saved that for the Scooby Doo show.
Oh, crap. Oh,
We can redo it.
We can. Okay, so as I was saying, this is the first episode. So in this episode, we are going to be reviewing Series 1, Episode 1 of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Which is What a Night for a Night.
Oh, and I guess huge shout out before we start to Space Lux, who does all of our channel artwork, and I think that this is probably the best setup that she's ever done for us, I want to say. So huge shout out to Space Lux. You can find their information in the description. They're available for commissions and stuff. They're just amazing, and I'm simping for this artwork because it's awesome.
It looks amazing. Like when you first showed me, I was like, oh my gosh. And Tattie's in it.
Oh,
She is. Okay, so of course, going back to series 1, we're looking at a different, voice cast. So we are going to have Don Messick voicing Scooby Doo, Casey Kasem as Shaggy Rogers, Frank Welker as Fred Jones, Stefanianna Christopherson
I think it's Stefanianna Christopherson.
as Daphne, and Nicole Jaffe as Velma. So, how did it feel to go right back to the original voice cast, start with JayBee?
I guess starting with Don Messick, I almost feel like watching this series is making me more purist, because if you asked me before, controversially, my favourite Scooby voice would have been actually Neil Fanning, because I heard them as Scooby the most by watching the live action movies. And maybe my opinion hasn't changed, but certainly in animation, I want to say that there is no Scooby that I like better than Don Messick's, because it just seems more gravelly, and you'll see later on that they encompass actual dog barks into their dialect and mannerisms, that I just feel like Don Messick's Scooby is something different that not even, I guess, Frank Welker's been able to fully capture, although I'd say that Frank's probably gone on to make the role more of his own now, so he doesn't really need to be like Don Messick, but I just love Don Messick a lot.
Okay, and as always, JayBee been a huge Daphne fan. How do you feel returning to that voice?
Oh, Stefania is, I think, probably underrated. I don't know behind the scenes on why she was replaced so early. I think she's Daphne all throughout season 1, but then Heaven Off takes over. And I really do like this Daphne a lot. It's literally the original Daphne, the one that gave Daphne that first breath of life, and I really like her. I think she was probably done an injustice, but then I guess Heaven Off's good as well, so it kind of worked out.
How about you, Rhianna? How did you feel returning to the original voice cast?
For me, I go back to Scooby Doo, Where Are You? Almost weekly. I'll have at least one day where I binge watch as many episodes as I can in a day. So for me, I feel like it's not really that weird, but at the same time, comparing what we have now, Don Messick as Scooby Doo is just, I'm a lover of pretty much any voice actor who's done Scooby because they've all done it so well. But this, Don Messick just hits differently. I feel like his Scooby, the voice is perfect, I feel, and it's a great way for the first, incarnation of Scooby to be able to grow, because you can easily see hear the evolution of his voice and how he's incorporated different things as he's gotten more comfortable. And I feel like it's so. I had a moment earlier where I was like, I kind of wish I could go back in time just for like a day when Scooby Doo first came out to watch it and see everyone's reactions in person, to see how they reacted to the voice cast, because we all know Frank Welker as Fred, and it's just so different but also magical. I feel there's something about the voice cast for this that we'll never get again in new Scooby Doos. I mean, we see what they've done to Velma, and
God.
like, please take us back to 1969. But at the same time, it just makes me appreciate this cast a bit more, I feel, if that makes sense. I kind of rambled, so.
I mean, I agree with both of you completely. I think we have a perfect Scooby voice in this. It was done so well from day one. And also, like you say, it makes you look back at the transition. I think, Lillard has been a great, placement of Shaggy when it was required. But at the same time, we've also seen how some things perhaps transcended differently in regards to things like Velma voices and stuff. I think it's always nice to go back to the original and just see where it all came from before it kind of transitioned.
Yeah, and I think I've seen something like, I think it was on like an evolution of video, and it was basically saying that the difference between Velma maybe is why they're so polarizing, is because when every Velma comes into the role, they never try and sound like the Velma before them, if that makes sense. So Mindy Cohn didn't try and be Nicole Jaffe, she was literally just Mindy Cohn as Velma, which worked. Whereas you see that Matthew Lillard especially studied how to sound a bit more like Casey Kasem but put his own twist on things. And so if you look back at this series, it is Velma who sounds the most different. So that's maybe why, which it can be a good or bad thing, but...
Okay, and what do we all think going back to the original look? So I guess Fred, it's never changed too much other than, the what's new era.
I'd say Fred's probably changed the most. No, Daphne's changed the most. And then I think Fred's changed the other most, because he has the kind of sports jacket on in Scoob. He's got the stripy polo in Where Are You? And of course there's this ascot look now, whereas if you think about Velma...
Which is Ghost era as well, I guess.
Oh yeah, true, another polo. Whereas Velma's always just been, orange sweater, black, red skirt, and again, that Shaggy's only gone red shirt a few times, and then he's just pretty much the same. So I don't know. It's lovely to see Fred like this again. This is my definitive Fred look. In animation anyway, because I just don't like it whenever they change Fred's outfit in animation.
I would say it's nice to revisit this look, but when we're on the series now, and this is going to be a common theme for me, I simp very hardly for What's New Scooby Doo. And for me, that's my favourite Daphne look. So I just love the dress in that. So for all I think it's nice to see this one. I'm also a bit like, I can't wait for What's New.
Yeah. I mean, we might get there, we might not.
Oh, we will get there.
We will.
It's my favourite series. We are getting to that series.
Yeah, but it's not... I guess we can. I guess we might. We'll try. We'll aim for it. We'll aim for it.
We will get there. Rhianna, how did you feel about seeing all the original looks again?
I love it because, even though I was very much like you, Millie, I feel, where, What's New, I grew up predominantly with that, but at the same time, and I think it comes from the fact that I was home from school a lot because I wasn't well. I got to see the original cartoons a lot, and they possibly, for me, I prefer them over any other adaptation, I think. And, I love the fact that Fred has his ascot, because that, you can't replace that. It's just Fred. Who is he without his ascot? Like, you take away his traps in Mystery Incorporated, who is he? Well, you can't take away his ascot. And I just want to quickly touch on something that JayBee said, which was about the outfits of each of them and who's had the most changes. I feel like this is possibly controversial, but they have actually, as time has gone on, become lazy with Velma, because everyone else has had different styles and outfits and things like that. Velma is always the same, and I feel like that also reflects in the voice cast, because we've had amazing voices for Velma, don't get me wrong, but we've also had the few who it's like Kate Micucci, where sometimes she's amazing, but others we listen and say, please stop talking. And I think that reflects in also the character design, because Velma hasn't changed throughout it all. There's only been where I feel she wore just a plain orange t-shirt with red shorts, in Alien
Oh,
Invaders.
yeah.
That's really all that they've touched upon exploring her style. So we don't really know a lot about Velma's style, but going back to the fact that it's the original stylings, I love it all. Nothing will ever beat it, I feel, because it's the first, it's the most iconic. You look at it and you think, that is Scooby Doo. And the outfits, I mean, I would go out wearing all of that. Like, I would definitely, like, even to this day, wear what Daphne wears, wear what Velma wears, So I feel like it would be cool to just go out like that, to be honest. But I think it also means that it stands the test of time because you can watch it and be like, yeah, I could rock that, maybe tweak a little thing here and there. So yeah, if that makes sense.
I agree. And I think what you said about Velma being the one that's changed the least is so true. And you only need to look at something like, for all it isn't like modern is the cyber chase where they meet their cyber doubles. And literally, to just glance at them, you couldn't tell Velma apart from their cyber double because she's the only one that's just the same.
Yeah.
All they did was darken the colours, I think.
Like, if she was a Funko Soda, she would have no chase, maybe with a magnifying glass, but...
One thing that, and this is ridiculous, but the thing that they did differently for Linda Cardellini was just the way the skirt was pleated.
Oh yeah, 'cause it's like done like
at the
one
front.
way, right? Yeah. Like an open.
And I just think I preferred that look. I don't know why. I just thought it was nice that they'd at least tried to do something.
Yeah, because I don't see that working in live action, right? Unless you want to make it look a bit too schoolgirly, which I don't think they wanted.
I mean, like you say, you can get school skirts that's pleated like that. I think 99% of girls in the UK used to have one. I know I did.
Was it nice?
I still do.
Oh.
So they could have gone that way. I just appreciate it. So one thing that I do want to quickly go back to as well is we've now revisited the original intro.
Oh. See, this is iconic. I kind of feel like there's not gonna be an intro that matches this in terms of being iconic, because I don't think it has necessarily the best music or the best look, but it definitely has the best vibe, and maybe it's looking back at things with like that nostalgic love. And really, this one I didn't watch a whole lot as a kid because I was scared of this series, but I just feel like it was lightning in a bottle, this intro. And this is the reason why we have all the others. It's like people look back so fondly at Iron Man partly because without Iron Man you wouldn't have like the Winter Soldier, the Avengers, and I think that's like that with this. If this was, a mediocre show with a bad intro, this could be just where it ended. But it led to so many cool things that I think you really can't underestimate how much this first episode at least did right.
I agree it did a lot right, but I want to chime in as the voice of even remote slight negativity. This is my second favourite intro. Because I disagree with you about it being the most memorable or iconic or something. For me, you can't beat What's New.
No, I prefer the music of What's New. And not the look, I prefer the music. I just think that this is iconic. Like, if you play What's New Scooby Doo, a lot of people are gonna know what it is, but I feel like you could almost say the same for this. And comparing a early 2000s show, Testing the Test of Time, is awesome, but for a 1960s show to test the time is surely even more awesome by default.
I think that this is amazing. What I am saying is I just wanted to offer a different voice and different opinion in that What's New, the music is just so like energizing that I'm excited when the episode starts just because the music sets such an amazing vibe for it. Whereas with this, I'm not as excited when the episode starts because of that.
See, that's a good point, because if you think about like What's New, it's that What's New Scooby Doo is like really funky, and then it always starts with like that kind of wah wah music, kind of funky music. Even when it's trying to be a bit darker, it's still playing relatively pleasing music. Whereas this, it sets you up for a fun show, but also a slightly darker show in that we don't really see too many bright colours or anything. And it always starts with, say, some fog or like some kind of dark atmospheric music. So I kind of feel like it suits the show.
That was just me trying to offer a controversial opinion anyway, just to kind of make things entertaining. Rhianna, were you happy to see the original intro again?
I was. 'Cause this is, I think, tied with two others being my first favorite intro, and I feel like it's done really well because it encompasses that kind of 60s 70s style of music where it's quite funky, a little bit spooky. And one thing that I really do love is the fact that in the intro they took, because I feel like they in a lot of ways have been lacking in this recently with new Scooby Doo series and stuff, is that what they do is they just create a whole new title sequence with possibly a few villains showing up, but there's nothing to foretell what's going to happen in the series. But with Scooby Doo Wow, we see that little hint of, the Black Knight ghost shadow showing up, Scooby in the plant pot, things like that, which I really, really like, because even though you don't know what episode is going to be on, if you just randomly flick a channel on and it's on there, you instantly think, okay, I'm thinking of all these different monsters, all these different episodes that I've watched. I'm going to keep an eye on to see if I can pinpoint exactly which episode this scene in the intro is from. So yeah, I really like it. And also, can I quickly just say something that I remembered? It's a fun little fact that so the names are revealed in this episode and everything, talking about the characters as Scooby, Shaggy, Daphne, and Velma. And I don't think originally they had Fred as Fred's name, because I know in storyboards they actually referred to him as Ronnie, and it was one of his working names, and Fred wasn't decided until I believe after they created this episode.
See, that's so interesting, because I would have thought that out of all of them, Fred would be the only one who did have a name, apart from Scooby-Doo, obviously, because I think as well, researching the show, is Fred was named after Fred Silverman, who was the head of Hanna-Barbera, all the Scooby show at the time. So that surprises me, but I don't doubt that at all. It's just interesting.
Okay, that actually is a really fun fact to know. And something that I hadn't noticed, throughout the notes I've taken, I've been observant with quite a few things, but that was one thing that I'd not noticed.
I think I remember I found the page that I first read it on, and I'll send you the link a little later to it, because it has on there little key facts, and it's things that also I've noticed from watching it so many times. I guess I'm a Scooby-Doo addict and probably need to go to Scooby-Doo Anonymous, but
I mean, I feel like I need to do the same for Funko Pops. I think I need to go to Funko Addict Anonymous. Because I'm a Funko fiend. I am a Funko fiend.
You are indeed. Okay, so now we're going to be getting a little bit more into the episode, and I realised that I didn't summarise this at the start as we normally would. So, for those of you that haven't watched this episode for a little while, or haven't seen it before, if you've only been watching the newer series...
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, because I guess the discussion about the cast on the intro is stuff that is the epilogue almost, so...
Yeah. So,
sorry, I do have written down a small synopsis if you need it.
Great. After you, Rhianna.
Sorry. So basically, in this episode, we see Scooby and Shaggy finding an abandoned pickup truck with a knight's armor, which is in the front seat. And the gang end up delivering it to the museum in place of the missing professor, Professor Hyde White. And this Black Knight is said to come alive every full moon. So the gang basically investigate this night, and then they realize that it is a full moon, and the night has come alive, and dun dun dun, what happens next? We all know, but pretty cool.
Indeed. I mean, admittedly, from the start of this episode, JayBee was like, oh, I know who did this, because of watching
Oh yeah, I kind of made some joke and again, this was to no audience. I'm just crazy to trigger the Scooby purist. Oh, and here we have Mr. Wickles. And I was like, oh no, the live action movie spoiled this episode because it told me who did it. And it's no.
Okay, so as Rhianna said, it starts with kind of like a truck driving along quite a spooky road, and the knight escapes. So, a bit of a cold opening, really. JayBee, what did you think to the knight as the villain?
The knight, here's the thing, right? I notoriously don't like the Where Are You villains that are humanoid, right? That are just person with 2 legs, 2 arms. It looks like a humanoid. Although I feel like this one can kind of get away with it, because not only is it more historical, which we'll see later in stuff like the caveman and whatnot, but I think it's more historical, but also it's stylized as well. So they're in a museum, and it's a cool trope to imagine like something from there coming alive. So I think, and with it being the first episode, it's not like the humanoid villains have become tiring yet. So I don't know, I would have preferred a more, here's like something like the 10,000 volt ghost that obviously does stand up still like that, but it's got a different vibe to it. Or gosh, like Gator Ghoul, that is kind of humanoid, but it's a creature. But I think to ease the audience into it's just spooky things, I think it works really well.
Hey, and Rhianna, what did you think about seeing the knight?
It scares me. I think it's just because I have a childlike mind and a very mature mind that are separate. And as soon as I start watching it, I go into that childlike mind. And it's creepy, but I think also because the drawings are so dark as well, even though mentally we know exactly what's going to happen, we see the darkness and it's like, oh gosh, this is terrifying. Also, I would probably scream if I saw that in real life. Like, that night is terrifying. But it's also pretty cool. I really liked it, and it gave me chills, and that's how every good Scooby Doo episode should leave you feeling.
It is, and I like how they didn't start with a ghost.
Yeah.
Just because
It was
ghosts
just
are the
a guy
first thing
running.
your mind jumps to.
I mean, is it meant to be a ghost though, as in the ghost of a
No,
night?
but you know what I mean by a ghost.
Oh, well, yeah, like the one from episode 3, like kind of
yeah.
standing feet over your head.
Like, it's good that they waited until episode 3 to do a ghost.
Well, yeah, it's like Doctor Who in a way. Like they didn't want bug-eyed monsters until like later on, and then the Daleks were introduced.
And,
So
like,
for all this
in
more,
even more recent series, it's good that they don't just throw the Daleks in as episode 1, because it's like you've kind of didn't know what to do already. Do you know what I mean?
I will do a Doctor Who podcast one day, but it's at least 20 years off, so don't wait for that.
Okay, so after seeing the cold opening, we then start to see Shaggy and Scooby walking back on their own. So I guess it's quite brave for them to be walking on their own, right? We're kind of used to seeing them
especially in today's
run around
society.
in the mystery machine and.
Well, here's the thing: are they not coming back from a movie? And so it's almost like you almost get a vibe of like Mystery Incorporated, like they live somewhere and this is around where they live, because they're away from the gang, but also they've just gone to watch a movie together. So it's kind of like, why did they split up in that instance? And
I mean, I guess it's because they want to establish some form of character, because at that stage we kind of get that comedic chasing scene after the frog.
yeah,
I love that.
I like that. It is just so good. And again, this is probably just pure nostalgia, but just the fact that we're introduced with these two characters that have such great chemistry together, it's just, I don't know, it's just weird to think that they were making one of many Hanna-Barbera cartoons at the time, and yet still, like 50 plus years later, there's so much fandom around it and love. It's like, could you imagine like being at the forefront of that? It's just,
I also like how, just seeing again how from day one they wanted to take on more than one genre. It wasn't just, this is a mystery. It's, here's the element of comedy. This is where we're going to keep it lighthearted.
I really want, like, again, Doctor Who. I want like a Vincent and the Doctor episode of Doctor Who where like the Doctor visits like Hanna-Barbera, Fred Silverman, and they're like nervous because they're trying to rush out the cartoon because obviously there were loads, and I just want them to like come to the future and just see how like it's still going. I just love it a lot. I wish I could animate. That's the one thing that I wish that I could do that I can't do, because it just seems so awesome. I guess it's all different now.
It is, but like I say, I think it was good to kind of introduce it the way they did, kind of get that separate character development, and then ultimately we see all the gang together when they go to see the knight in the truck after Shaggy and Scooby find it.
Yeah. Here's one thing that confused me about that, is that Shaggy's confused that the person is called Hyde White, and so I think Fred needs to, or Velma needs to clarify that Hyde White is an English name, and then it's revealed that they're from the UK, and so it's kind of comedic, because it's like, back then, or even to this day, are American names different to English names? Like, are we called different things than an American would be called?
I wouldn't say so.
It's kind of interesting.
Because hear me out here, isn't it a theory? Isn't it kind of a thing where most surnames originate from
your ancestors'
your
job?
ancestors' job,
Yeah.
and presumably.
So John Smith, their parents would have been like a blacksmith or someone that made something. Right?
Yeah, you'd think that ultimately they would require the same professions and things.
Yeah, maybe different in like in India, for example. Like, but then again, sing. I guess lots of people in India sang for a living. I don't know. And yes, if for people watching this for the first time, I am the coloured one at the front, so I can't speculate on this. No need to stress.
Can I? Oh, sorry.
No, do you?
One thing I think it's at this point, when so first with Shaggy and Scooby walking, I feel like they got in What's New Scooby Doo. It's Mean, It's Green, It's the Mystery Machine, where they're walking out of the theater after like watching, I think it was like Return of Astro Mutt, and it's so similar because both of them end in Shaggy and Scooby finding a vehicle that has the ghost or monster that they're about to like take on in. And also one thing that I noticed is that Fred says, I think it's like, well, gang, it looks like we're up to our armor plates in another mystery. I don't know if it's at the beginning or a little bit later on, which means he's hinting that the series is going to continue and we're going to see younger adaptations of them, like in A Pup Named Scooby Doo.
Yeah, see, that's so weird because just going on like canon and everything, I think a lot of people think that it's all one canon, and I kind of see that, but then you hear, say, James Gunn on Twitter, I think he said once that events very similar, although not the same, to Where Are You Season 1 and 2 happened before the 2002 movie and 2004 movie. And obviously, again, he did say similar, but it's like when they explicitly say in the second one that the Black Knight Ghost was their very first case, it's like, I don't know what to think about the overall canon, but I would like to think that there were more monsters before the Black Knight.
Well, this is my thing. Surely there was an origin story before this one. Like, I don't want to say that this is the one that I'm about to recall is the main thing. But for example, if we take The Mystery Begins, there's a mystery that brings the gang together, whereas here it's pre-established.
Yeah, and again, with Scoob, you get Shaggy and Scooby meeting, but there is a mystery that brings them all together as well. So there's kind of surely something like this as well. I don't recall the first episode of A Pup Named Scooby Doo. Maybe they meet for the first time there, or maybe they just jump right into it and they're just kid versions of the gang. I don't know.
No. Okay, so ultimately the gang need to return the knight to the museum, and I believe this is when we start to see the Mystery Machine around this time as well.
Yeah.
So again, I think it was really good to see the more like original, iconic look. It's great to see how much that's like stood the test of time as well, like how when they went on to do live action movies like 40 years later, they used a similar pattern and things like that.
And it's kind of surreal looking at this now after speaking to like Bob Singer, who literally designed the original Mystery Machine.
I mean, yeah, after speaking to them, this is incredible to watch their name then in the credits. It's just reaffirming how, integral they were right from day one.
Indeed.
Okay.
There's a lot of tropes, right, that I kind of want to see in this, because I've always heard that there's a lot of things that haven't carried over, But even in this, we see stuff like Velma losing her glasses and stuff like that.
Yeah, they certainly set a lot of things up from day one. So after returning the night, they need to break back into the museum. And Shaggy climbs through the window. We also, like you were saying about setting tropes quite early on, we see Scooby stand guard in exchange for a Scooby snack. So I guess I'd forgotten that this was right in episode 1. Like, so many things. It was almost like they'd done everything right from day 1 because so many things stayed current. It wasn't that they tried to, like, age out some of it.
Yeah, the only thing that hasn't really continued is when Velma says, "What a ham!" And also, I guess Shaggy being the athlete of the group. I mean, he's always the quickest runner, so maybe that's where that comes in.
And I guess with them climbing through the window, the one to go through the window, they're the thinnest one.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're all very tall, they're very thin. So I guess that kind of made sense. So Velma and... So I think they start to split up and look for clues. I think you get your kind of standard Daphne, Fred divide, and then Velma, Scooby, and Shaggy. But Velma and Scooby lose Shaggy. They take a different turn. And they're followed by the night.
Here's what's interesting. When Velma loses her glasses and thinks that Shaggy is the Knight, we get a sense that Velma has, like, Shaggy's medicine, and she just carries Shaggy's medicine around. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is proof that they're in a relationship and stuff. And obviously you can interpret it that way. And other people are like, no, they're friends. And again, you can interpret it that way as well. But I always feel like it seems somewhat paternal. Not like this massive theory, oh my gosh, Velma's Shaggy's mum. Obviously not, but I don't know. I think their relationship in this is so interesting because I don't know if friends are just carrying each other's medicine around for them, but it seems like she very much does care about him in particular, and whether that's romantic or not, I guess we'll never know.
What I'd say is that it's maybe that Shaggy and Scooby are sometimes classed as liabilities. So she has to take some responsibility.
I kind of see it as that the gang are more worried about Shaggy and Scooby. Well, to be honest, Shaggy in particular, because, you know, Shaggy will have Scooby who will stop him from doing something if, like, he's going into danger, and Scooby sees it first. So I think, you know, that it's possibly that they're worried about him, and as the series, like, goes on, we see Shaggy going off with Scooby more, so they trust them way more. But I think it's more like, we don't want anything to happen to you because you are, like, part of the heart and soul of the gang. And also, when JayBee was touching on the whole that Velma carries around his medicine, like, could it be a relationship? Could it not be? Like, that whole thing, because Jensen Ackles was carrying around Drake Roger, who's going to be in the Winchester series, his eye drops and putting them in his eyes for him because he couldn't do it himself. And it just reminded me of
I cannot have eye drops in my eyes.
No, I've done eye drops for you before.
Do we not need to do a thing where you put it on the little crunchy bit on my eye, and then I need to, like, lie back and open my eye?
When JayBee has eye drops, we do have to go through a full process with him. He has to, like, I have to sit behind him. He then has to lie back so his head's, like, facing up to the ceiling. And then the eye drops have to go into the corner, and yeah, like you say, you have to blink. There is a process.
Imagine that. My ancestors went through British colonialism, and 2 generations later, I can't even put eye drops in. Imagine that.
Oh my gosh.
That's just ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, JayBee. Okay, so the gang finds them kind of paint footprints, and they follow them to the mummy case, and behind the mummy case, there is a secret room.
Oh, I love this. This is one of my favourite parts about Scooby that always used to stay with me, because when I did catch episodes of this, or even in the Scooby Doo show, which was, like, my main show that I watched alongside What's New, is always fantasizing about secret rooms. Like, if I push this book in, then this could flip over. So, the fact that they introduced something like this so early is just so iconic Scooby for me.
It certainly is. Very iconic.
I love it.
Ultimately, what Been in This Room unveils is that there's counterfeit artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So the Knight finds them in there, and then we get the iconic Scooby Doo chase scene.
Yes!
Shaggy and Scooby get into a plane to hide. That plane takes off.
I think this is referenced in Scooby Natural now.
Yes.
When Shaggy says that he jumped out of a biplane in a museum and he didn't break anything then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, ha, Rhianna, I beat you to the Scooby Natural reference. Get good.
I was going to.
Oh.
Just as you said it, I was like, oh, JayBee, we're thinking on the same, like...
On a biplane.
We're,
Ultimately, as always, Scooby and Shaggy save the day as well, because it's that plane that crashes into the night, which is when they can unveil them as...
Wickles. Mr. Wickles.
And as always, we then get the explanation. This had all been a kind of guise to be able to swap in fake art, smuggle the other art away, and Scooby manages to find Professor White.
Which, and throughout the episode there was almost like, I want to say almost Mexican or Indian looking statue that always had the moving eyes. That's another awesome Scooby trope. And it turns out that Hyde White was tied up on that. So that's the reveal that they find him and everyone's kind of happy. Again, another like trope with Scooby pretending to be the Black Knight to kind of scare Shaggy at the end. And then he kind of takes off the mask and goes, and that's his kind of, I can't do the voice, but that's his moment. And we love to see it because that's, again, something that stood the test of time as well.
Indeed. So that then summarises this plot, which means for the first time with this series, we're going to smash or pass verdicts. So, JayBee, as always, we are starting with you.
See, here's the thing, and I'm not going to rock the boat, right? But I don't feel like a smash or pass rating can be fully applied here, because if you want to pass an episode, what are the requirements for that? Like, it has to be really bad, and even if it is really bad, it's only 20 minutes long. So what is a pass? I don't want to pass this, but again, I'm kind of struggling in my mind to gauge what a pass episode would look like. Although,
so a smash episode is one you would say you enjoyed, you'd watch it again, it was good. Ultimately, there's maybe a bit of an issue here with the smash or pass ratings, because ultimately you'd think if you're going to pass one episode, you'd be passing most of the series, because with it being shorter, things like art style, characterizations, voices will play more of an impact. But ultimately, as always, it's a question of, do you want to see it again?
I mean, I like the setting, I like the villain, great intro, so I think there's no reason for me not to smash this. I think it's pretty cool, and I'm going to watch it many, many times before I move on to the next plane of existence. Milly, do you smash or pass Scooby Doo, Where Are You in What a Night for a Night?
I'd say it has to be a definite smash. It's amazing to see how many things from day one still exist now. Like you're saying, Velma losing her glasses, Scooby snacks, stuff like that was just set up so well. And I think they achieved a lot for like a 20-minute episode. You know, having Professor White hiding as well, but they were tied up, so you almost was wondering.
Hiding.
So you were almost wondering if, like, you know, the ghost had just taken another form for that brief moment, if it was kind of like that thing where they hide behind portraits or something. And no, I think they established a lot. I think it was really good, and it would have to be a definite smash. So, Rhianna, that just leaves you. Scooby Doo, Where Are You in What a Night for a Night? Smash or pass?
Okay, well, first, I just want to say something which I think JayBee will really like.
Yay.
Daphne is the one who started the whole Scooby Doo, Where Are You thing, because she was the first person to say that in the whole entire show.
Yes.
So it's one for Daphne so far. I would smash it. I feel like I will never. There's not been a single thing so far that like we've reviewed that I've passed on the channel. So I'm not going to make that like change now, because I will happily watch that episode again and again and again. And then one day when I'm on my deathbed, I will watch it again, and I will take my final breath as the credits end. That's how I'm going out.
Wait, did you smash the 52nd anniversary reunion?
I think she did.
I did.
Wait, did you? Wait, no, because you weren't on the Daphne and Velma episode.
No.
So,
I asked her and she does like the movie.
huh. Well, here's the thing. I know people like to glorify this series, and rightfully so, it's great. But I know for a fact that there is an episode coming up that I do think I'm gonna pass. So I guess I'll leave that up for people to wait for.
Okay, so that does it for this episode. As always, as we did with the movies as well, we want to kind of keep the community news in this a little bit. This episode will be going out on Monday, the 30th of May. So with that being said, next month, my community news bit is that next month is going to be the 20th anniversary of the Scooby Doo 2002 movie. We have some celebrations, some great things planned. Perhaps that we'll elaborate on a little bit more in the next episode, which will actually be released on the 1st. So it might include some of our plans for the month there. But stay tuned on the channel for that. We have so much coming up, we can't even begin to tell you.
I think for the most part, I'm going to save my community news bit for every 3rd episode. So that I can be the one to round up the week, I guess.
JayBee's weekly roundup.
Yeah, that's my thing. So I can't do community news for every episode, purely for the fact that not a lot of people in the community do anything.
The reason I've said it, some things here, is obviously there's things coming up this week, and also the 3rd episode won't go out for like another week yet, so I was doing it while it was still current.
Yeah. Oh, I guess huge congratulations for Roger Eschbacher for being hired on the new Mystery Pup series. That's awesome. Really looking forward to see what they do with that series. Oh, yeah, that's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Okay, so that does it for this episode. We hope you have enjoyed the very first Series 1, Episode 1 review. We are going to be continuing this on Wednesday with Episode 2 of Scooby Doo Where Are You Season 1. So please subscribe for that. And as always, Rhianna's links will be in the description below. So please like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee Milly, and follow Rhianna's links too.
Ooh.
Woo!